weird and funny on me, so
Oh.
I don't know why that was. Yeah, so you're from America.
Hmm.
Well, skiffle music is an American thing, but its original name wouldn't have been skiffle. In America, it would have been called jug band music or something like
Okay.
that. It's born out of New Orleans mainly. It's a mixture of styles, so you've got a very much a blues influence, you've got very much a jazz influence, and a folk and country. Basically, you take all your roots music and you pull them into one big pot. We got term skiffle in the 50s by Lonnie Donegan mainly. He was known as the King of Skiffle,
Okay.
and that was our first pop music. That was the music that started the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and any other band that followed through the 60s.
Very cool.
Started in a skiffle group, and that was the first time in our history in this country that people made their own music and didn't go and watch other people do it, but did it themselves. And that's why I like it, because it's the roots of our rock. So, albeit forgotten.
Yeah, very cool. All right. Let's see. So have you been pursuing just like the career in music your whole life, pretty much? Would you say, or?
Yeah, I took a year out and worked for a music magazine.
Oh.
I worked for Acoustic Magazine, which is a national acoustic guitar publication. I worked for that for 18 months. Just took a break out of touring because I've been on the road since I was about 16,
Wow.
15, 16. I was a kid entertainer as well, so I've literally entertained since I was a little boy. So I figured I was going to see what it was like to have a day job. So I lasted 18 months and then left. I thought, I don't like this anymore. So yeah, music's been my life pretty much all the way through, except for just a couple of times where I took a step out of it for a while. And in between doing the shows and the touring and the music, I also did agency booking some of the theatre shows. I worked with Annie Kendall around all the main UK theatres.
Cool.
And I worked with for 5. I'm still working with it. It's currently taking a downturn now. It's on its way out, but it's had 7 or 8 good years in some of the top theatres. So I did the booking, and I also did the marketing and promotion for that show as well, and media liaison and things like that, which is why I'm wondering what you're going to do.
Right. Okay, so it sounds like you have some experience with the industry outside of just the music.
Yeah, I've dabbled most of it, not all of it, most of it, and even if I've not done much, all of it, I've got an idea of most areas, or at least a rough idea of what goes on, the reality of what goes on.
Yeah.
So yeah,
What would you say is your favorite part of the industry? And
getting paid.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm spending it. I treat myself to a Starbucks every single day because that's my one treat, and that's I wouldn't be able to do that day. No, the correct answer, yeah, obviously, that money is the reality, but the truth is that what was your question? What's the best bit I get out of it?
Yeah, your favorite part of the industry.
Yeah, the fact that I don't have to do the thing everybody else does. When I go out, when I wake up at 10 in the morning, and then go out the door at 2 in the afternoon, my day starts at 2 in the afternoon, and when I look at people running around and faffing about and going mad, I realise that life's a very short thing, and I enjoy every minute of it, and that's what it gives me, is freedom to be a free person and enjoy my life, rather than adhering to the day-to-day crap that everybody else get wrapped up in, So yeah, I live a very, very relaxed, free life, not with much, but a happy life. So that's what matters. That's what it gives to me. That's music.
Absolutely. So when you're not making music, what are you up to then?
I can show you if you can stay there.
Yeah.
I'll show you exactly what I'm up to.
Okay.
Second. Yeah. Come here.
Oh.
This is what I'm up to.
Oh.
I'm not making music. This is what I'm up to, isn't it? So this is what I do in my spare time. I go out on walks with this little fella, and I generally read my books and study and self-learn, and just enjoy relaxing.
Very cool.
He's camera shy. He's not like his father. So yeah, so that's my time when I'm not making music. Reading. I've got a lot of interests, various things, you know. A lot of them very much away from music.
Okay.
When I have a guitar down, I do tend to put it down like a plumber. You know, he doesn't come home and start sharpening his spanners. He tends to go away, and I put it to sleep and pursue other interests and things. You know, so yeah. Reading and walking and out with the dogs is one of them. Yeah.
Very cool. What would you say is the hardest part of being in the music industry?
Travel.
Travel.
It's all right in the early years. Travel, because I was only talking about this the other night actually. We were in a hotel after a gig. We do sometimes have to do hotel days if it's a late night.
Mm-hmm.
And I was only saying the next day to the guys that I feel the travel more than I've ever felt it. When you first start, you know, it's the journeys are very long, and then when you come for a while, the journeys start to get quite short and very fast, and you seem to realise the country's not as big as you thought it was. But once you've done that for a lot of years, it starts to get long again. And every journey starts to get bored. You start to notice things that you didn't realise you noticed. For instance, I started noticing the shape of certain trees in certain parts of the country, and whenever I travel to Scotland now, I would look out for certain silly things that I've noticed that many times. You know, it becomes quite sad. So I go by the train. I go on the train now.
Okay. What's the coolest place that you've traveled to with music?
Well, I went to California. That was with the NAMM show. To the NAMM show. I don't know if you know what the NAMM show is. The NAMM show is a big music merchants gathering in Anaheim, in LA. A very boring gathering, really interesting. That was an experience. But that aside, I've been to Tenerife on the Canary Islands. I've been to Germany. In fact, I'm going back to Germany in a couple of weeks' time, next month's time. Working with my friends out there who I know. I always love going to Scotland. The journey kills me, but I enjoy going to Scotland. Where else have I been? I like going to scenic places more so than there's plenty of scenic places in this country. Scotland, a mile away, places like that, not a pretty place. So I like going to scenic places, and I like the summer gigs more. I can see more of it. So yeah, I've been to lots of interesting places. I'm sure there'll be a few more.
Yeah, definitely. How would you describe like your current audience right now? Old.
Old. Yes, mainly as I call them, wise people of the parish. They tend to be a little. That's not true actually. I say that. Yes, it is partly true. The majority are, but I get even in there's some younger people in. But the difference is that my experience of the music industry is that older people tend to stick around and listen to music longer than the younger people, depending on where you play. I mean, if you go into a music club, I think it depends on your music, and I don't think music is quite as I don't mean it's not as popular, but it's kind of not as popular as it used to be. There's a lot more going on. You know, you can play on your phone all night, you can surf the web all night, you can download the track you want. Everything's so instantaneous. To actually get up and go outside and see the music, especially on a cold winter's night. And it tends to be, I find older people, surprisingly do it. So my audience tends to be a little bit older. Anybody suitable for anybody, but 40s upwards, but mainly 50s upwards. But they tend to be the people who frequent the bar all night, whereas younger people tend to start at the pub or the bar, start in there, have a drink, and then they bugger off the next one, and leave you. Whereas the older people, the older they get, the more they grow their into the air, the more they stay, and they tend to be the audience. So they're usually the people I'm entertaining, the people who are really drunk.
Are you looking to like grow your audience more? Like, do you think you have a niche with like younger markets at all, or?
Well, I don't really think it's difficult to say. Because, again, it comes back to my experiences that my music could grow. I mean, it could grow because Bruce Springsteen was doing this music only about 6 or 7 years ago. He put a massive, huge 16-piece folk band together.
Wow.
His career was on the bone of its arse. It was really full. Bottom had fallen out of his career, and then he had a huge comeback, just singing the same songs that I sing, pretty much, except I had a better repertoire than he had, but pretty much the same songs. I did a lot of them already. He just had a bigger band and a name, but the audience was young, and they learned those songs, you know. So, but unfortunately, as I say, that's partly because he's Bruce Springsteen and I'm not. It could grow, but it's difficult to know. I've tried myself. I've tried to push it. I promoted. I've done, but it's where do you how do you promote? That's the question. There was once upon a time, only 10 years ago, a newspaper was all you really needed to do, and a couple of choice magazines. But now, the niche market is getting nicher in itself, and it's extending, and people don't buy newspapers, and young people certainly don't buy newspapers, and young people certainly don't really buy magazines like they used to. Nobody commits to down magazines. Working for. So it's a nightmare to know what to do. So I came to the conclusion that my audience, I came to the conclusion that rather than put my music out there and hope people will come to me, I have to go where they go. And to me, that meant that I could hire every theatre in the country and lose hand over fist thousands of pounds, which I lost. Not thousands, but a few hundred. On the other hand, by putting myself to a pub, which isn't really where I'm best suited, but I can work that crowd because I've got experience of working everywhere, so I can degrade myself to the pub if I have to. And by sticking me in the corner of a pub, when young people are there, or older people, or any age group, one thing that never go out of fashion is alcohol and the consumption of it. So as long as I'm where the beer flows, they will be there and they'll stick around for as long or as short a time as they want to. And that's kind of the method I used.
Okay.
Rather than sell the music, let the beer sell itself and just be where beer flows and fully. You know, that will attract people in like moths to a light.
Yeah. Well, if pubs are your like ideal venue, what would you say is best suited for your?
Well, there lies another problem. I best suited venues for me are places where people sit and listen. People sit quietly and watch. I don't mind people. I like people to have fun and what have you. But the theatre was always where I was best suited because I was very good at making people respond when it suited me, and then bringing them down when it suited me, and taking them up and down for the night. You know, and I knew how to do that. That was my training. I was always trained to do it. Cabaret, sort of holiday place that I've done in the past, and aren't too bad if they're the right kind of place, as long as they're not too wild, and then they're okay. But mainly, the theatre was always where I was best suited. The theatre and the arts centres. But again, that requires them to be full. And the problem with those places is they also don't know how to, like I don't really know how to market me. They also don't know how to market me because they've got a brochure for 30, 40 acts and they can only dedicate a bit of time to each. They don't do much more than a press release, which I do. And they might have their regular adverts in a few select places, you know, that list people come. But again, they don't know how to, in the same way as I don't know how to, something that's so niche and different but quirky at the same time, you know. Everyone likes it. That's a fact. Everybody, especially on my I'm alright when I'm solo, especially if a gig pays a bit more money and I take a band in, or even just a few members of it, people love it. It's you know what to do with it, you know, and how to get it out, especially when there's so much choice.
Yeah.
That's the problem now. I think we've up until I'd say just about 10 years ago, the choice expanded rapidly. That's how I saw it anyway. To the point where there's now just one place to go, or there isn't just one choice to read or write or watch or see. You know, you've got 800 channels of TV. Some of them really have a deep variety program on. You know, so it's very difficult. But I say that, but you might know something I don't. In fact, you'll probably be more in touch with things than I am. I mean, I'm getting to the point where I'll just go out and sing from home. You know, so I don't really study the market as much now. I sort of accepted my fate. I accepted my fate.
Well, I think there's some good ideas that we can explore to help boost that a little bit, and maybe look into some more school venues that you prefer performing in and like that. So there's definitely a lot of things to look into, I think. So
okay,
not a bad place to be, but
well, I'm not in the worst place. I mean, I always say I'm out being creative. I'm paying my bills, and as long as that's happening, and as long as I'm not losing money, then I'm happy. And that's my world. I don't think as long as you're losing, then you're winning, and that's all that matters, really.
Absolutely.
Who's that on your wall anyway? I'm just looking at on your wall.
That's Jerome Way. I don't know if you've heard of him. He was the front man for a band called My Chemical Romance.
Oh, I've heard of him. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so
I wouldn't know who he was. I've heard of them, yeah.
Yes, he's my favorite musicians, but
Wicked.
Yeah.
Do you go out? Do you follow the music scene a lot?
A bit, yeah. I'm big in the alternative ska punk scenes mostly, so.
Is there a modern ska scene now, or do you mean the original ska scene of the 80s, 80s?
Yeah, I mean there was revival in the late 90s, a bit of it, but still a lot of. I mean, I guess ones now are still Real Big Fish, Suburban Legends, things like that. So it's not a lot of new stuff per se, but
yeah, it's
still going
we
a bit.
We had a massive ska band because I was in Coventry, which is near, not too far from Birmingham, and Coventry had a massive revival of ska music in the 80s, I think it was. One of the biggest bands came from here. I forget what it's called now. I can't remember. It'll come to me. They had a massive reunion years ago.
It wasn't Madness, was it?
No, it wasn't Madness, but it was around that time.
Okay.
They were called the. Tell you what, I'll find out. I've got this. It does everything. It's called a phone. But we've got some. And you probably heard of them. The Specials.
Oh, okay. Yep.
You've heard of them. Frank, I know a lot. In fact, I used to drink with the bass player from the Specials in the pub.
Oh, wow.
Down the road, and I didn't even know who he was. And he was really, really, really up himself. And he thought he was something. And I was sitting there one night, destroyed his little, when everybody was crowding around him and shaking, and I was like, who the fuck are you? And he's like, the Specials.
Wow.
Yeah, you heard of Elvis? So, it was quite an interesting one. But I quite like Madness, but yeah, I'm not big on the ska scene, so only because I don't follow a lot of music in these days. Too busy out making it, you know.
Yeah.
It's very often is the case. A lot of my musicians don't follow the music scene as they could anymore because most of the time being on it and not focusing on what's happening around them. So, and I'm the same, unfortunately.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So another question I want to ask is, if you had absolutely no constraints on your career, like time or money, nothing is an issue, what would your dream job look like? What would you be doing?
I'd be doing the same thing.
Okay.
because I'm happy doing what I'm doing. If money wasn't an issue, I would make sure. Well, if money's not an issue, I would be making sure that it was only my face on every board and poster and train around, because money's not an issue.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's difficult. I'd still be doing pretty much the same thing.
Oh, cool.